The sky over Detroit burned orange that Tuesday morning, and it had nothing to do with the sunrise. Jake Morrison stood on the roof of his apartment building, watching 3 alien ships the size of aircraft carriers hover above downtown. Their hulls gleamed like polished obsidian, covered in symbols that hurt to look at for too long. He took a drag from his cigarette and laughed. Not because anything was funny, because what else could you do when the universe proved it had a sick sense of humor? Still smoking those cancer sticks? A voice called from behind him. Jake turned to see Maria Chen climbing through the roof access door, her medical bag slung over one shoulder. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, blood on her scrubs, but her jaw was set in that stubborn way, meaning she was nowhere near giving up. Cancer seems like a long-term problem right now, Jake said, flicking ash over the edge. Besides, the aliens might do me a favor and vaporize me before the lung disease kicks in. Always the optimist. Maria walked up beside him, staring at the ships. You know what the worst part is? That they showed up at all? No, that they showed up and immediately started killing us like we were insects. No negotiation, no ultimatum, just extermination. She wrapped her arms around herself. I had 17 patients in the ER last night. 17 people with burns I have never seen before. Their skin just melted. 3 of them were kids, Jake. Jake's hand tightened around his cigarette. Yeah, I know. Do you? Maria's voice cracked. Because you are up here smoking and making jokes while people are dying down there. I already tried the hero thing, Jake said quietly. Yesterday, I pulled 6 people out of a collapsed building. Today, I watched those same ships turn an entire city block into a glassy wasteland. You tell me what good my heroics did. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she reached over and plucked the cigarette from his fingers, took a drag herself, and handed it back. Fair enough, but wallowing in defeat is not going to save anyone either. Who said anything about defeat? Jake grinned, but there was no warmth in it. I am just getting started. Before Maria could respond, a sonic boom rattled the building. Another ship appeared on the horizon. This one was different, smaller, faster. It screamed over the city, and where it passed, buildings exploded. Just like that. 1 second, they stood tall. The next, they were rubble and fire. We need to move, Maria said. Now. They scrambled down through the building, taking the stairs 3 at a time. Jake could hear screaming from the apartments, crying, praying, the sounds of a species facing extinction and knowing it. They burst onto the street level, and chaos swallowed them whole. People ran in every direction. Cars had abandoned in the middle of the road, doors hanging open. A news helicopter circled overhead, still trying to film even as reality crumbled around them. Jake spotted a woman trapped under a fallen street sign. He and Maria rushed over, lifted the metal off her, and helped her to her feet. Thank you, the woman sobbed. My daughter is still in our apartment. Please, you have to help her. Which building? Maria asked. The woman pointed to a residential tower 3 blocks down, right beneath one of the hovering alien ships. Jake and Maria exchanged a look. Stay here, Jake told the woman. Find somewhere underground. A subway station. A basement. Anything. They ran toward the tower. Every instinct Jake had screamed at him to turn around, to run the other way. But he had never been good at listening to his instincts. That was probably why he had been dishonorably discharged from the Marines. Too stubborn, too willing to break rules when those rules were stupid. They reached the building just as something detached from the underside of the alien ship. It looked like a silver teardrop, falling gracefully through the air. Jake's blood went cold. Bomb, he yelled. They threw themselves through the building's entrance. The explosion came half a second later. The shockwave hurled Jake across the lobby. His ears rang. His vision blurred. He tasted copper and concrete dust. Maria, he croaked. She groaned somewhere to his left. Still alive. Barely. Jake forced himself to his feet. The building shook. Cracks spider webbed across the walls. This place was coming down, and soon. We need to find that kid and get out, he said. They staggered to the stairwell. The elevators were dead. Of course they were. They climbed. 4th floor, 5th, 6th. Each step felt like lifting a mountain. Smoke filled the stairwell, thick and black. Jake pulled his shirt over his mouth. On the 9th floor, they heard it. A child is crying. "Hello?" Maria called. "We are here to help." "In here," a small voice answered. "I cannot get the door open." They followed the sound to apartment 9C. The door was jammed, warped from the explosion. Jake kicked it. Once, twice. On the 3rd try, it splintered open. A girl, maybe 8 years old, sat huddled in the corner of the living room. She had her mother's eyes. Terrified, hopeful, trusting these two strangers to save her. "Come on, sweetheart," Maria said, holding out her hand. "We are leaving." The girl took it without hesitation. They made it back to the stairwell, started down. They had descended 3 floors when the building lurched violently to one side. Jake grabbed the railing. Maria held the girl tight. "Faster," Jake shouted. They ran. The building groaned like a dying animal. Metal shrieked. Concrete crumbled. They hit the lobby at a dead sprint and dove through the shattered entrance just as the tower collapsed behind them. The wave of dust and debris washed over them. Jake covered the girl with his body. Maria pressed against them both. For 30 seconds, the world was nothing but noise and darkness. Then it stopped. Jake coughed, sat up. The girl was crying but unhurt. Maria had a cut on her forehead, but was already checking the kid for injuries. "That was fun," Jake said. "Let us never do that again." "Agreed," Maria said. They got to their feet and looked around. The street was unrecognizable. Buildings lay in ruins. Fires burned everywhere. Bodies lay scattered like broken dolls. And above it all, the alien ship still hovered, silent and ominous. "We need a plan," Maria said. "Running around saving people one at a time is not sustainable." "I know a place," Jake said. "Old factory on the east side. Underground sections. Used to be a bomb shelter back in the Cold War. If we can get people there, they would have a chance." "How far?" 3 miles. Maria looked at the girl, then at the burning city, then back at Jake. "Lead the way." They moved through the ruins like ghosts. Jake had spent 2 tours in Afghanistan. He knew how to move through a war zone. Keep covering. Stay quiet. Watch for threats. The skills came back like muscle memory. They collected survivors as they went. An old man trapped in his car. A teenager with a broken leg. A mother clutching her infant son. By the time they reached the factory, they had 12 people with them. The factory looked abandoned. Perfect. Jake pried open a side door and they slipped inside. The interior was dark and smelled like oil and rust. But it was standing, and the aliens had not targeted it yet. "Downstairs," Jake said, pointing to a metal staircase. Everyone down. They descended into the old bomb shelter. It was cramped and musty, but the walls were thick concrete. Safe, relatively speaking. Maria immediately started triaging the injured. Jake helped where he could. The girl they had saved sat quietly in a corner, watching everything with wide eyes. "What is your name?" Jake asked her. "Lily," she said. "Nice to meet you, Lily." "I am Jake." "Are we going to die?" The question hit Jake like a punch. He wanted to lie, to tell her everything would be okay. But she deserved better than lies. "I do not know," he said honestly. "Maybe, but maybe not. Humans are pretty good at surviving when we should not. We are stubborn like that." "My mom said you'd come," Lily said. "She said someone would help me." "Your mom was right." A new voice spoke from the shadows. "Well, this is cozy." Jake spun around, hand going to the pistol he had taken from a dead cop earlier. A man stepped into the dim light. Tall, military bearing. His left arm ended in a stump at the elbow, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. "Easy," the man said. "Name is Marcus Webb. Former Army Ranger. Lost the arm in Syria. Been squatting here since the invasion started." "How many others?" Jake asked. "Just me. And now you." Marcus looked around at the group. "You planning to hide here until this blows over? You have a better idea?" Maria asked. Marcus smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was a smile of a man who had seen hell and decided to smile anyway just to spite it. Actually, yeah, I do. See, I spent the last 2 days watching those alien bastards, and I noticed something interesting. They are not invincible. They are just technologically superior. Big difference. Care to explain? Jake said, their ships have shields, energy barriers, but the shields have to drop when they fire their weapons. Just for a second. But a second is all you need if you know what you're doing. You want to fight back, Maria said. You want to attack them. Damn right I do. They came to our planet. They started killing our people. You think I'm going to just roll over and die quietly? Screw that. Marcus's voice was hard as steel. Humans have been the underdogs before. We have fought and bled and died against impossible odds. And sometimes, just sometimes, we win. Not because we are stronger, not because we are smarter, but because we are too stupid to know when to quit. Jake felt something stir in his chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope. What do you need? He asked. Marcus grinned. Explosives, weapons, and people crazy enough to charge an alien warship with homemade bombs and attitude. Think you can handle that? Jake looked at Maria. She looked back at him. Then she sighed and nodded. We are in, Jake said. Good, because I have been mapping their patrol patterns. Tomorrow night, one of their scout ships passes right over the old steel mill. Flies low, probably scanning for survivors. That is when we hit them. That is suicide, Maria said. Maybe, but it is also a statement. We are not going quietly. And who knows? We might actually take one of those sons of bitches down with us. Jake laughed. A real laugh this time. You know what? Why the hell not? I was never planning on dying in my sleep anyway. Maria shook her head, but could not quite hide her smile. You two are insane. Probably, Marcus agreed. But insane is what the situation calls for. They spent the rest of the day planning. Marcus had military maps of the area. Jake contributed his knowledge of the city. Maria pointed out where medical supplies could be scavenged. By nightfall, they had the skeleton of a plan. Crazy, dangerous, almost certainly doomed to fail. In other words, perfect. Jake stood guard that night while the others slept. He looked up at the ceiling of the bomb shelter, thinking about the alien ships above, thinking about Lily and her mother, thinking about every person who had died in the last 2 days. Revenge, he thought, was supposed to be cold, but what he felt was burning hot, a rage that threatened to consume him if he did not channel it into something productive, something violent. The aliens thought humans were weak, easy prey. They were about to learn why humanity had clawed its way to the top of Earth's food chain, not because humans were the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but because when you backed a human into a corner, when you took away everything they loved, they did not surrender. They fought back, and they fought dirty. Dawn broke over a city that looked like the end of the world. Jake stood outside the factory, watching the alien ships through binoculars. They moved in patterns, predictable patterns. That was their first mistake. Humans were pattern breakers. It was practically their specialty. Coffee. Maria appeared beside him, holding 2 chip mugs filled with something that barely qualified as coffee, more like hot brown water. But it was warm, and that counted for something. Thanks. Jake took a sip and grimaced. This tastes like dirt. Be grateful it is not literal dirt. Maria leaned against the wall. You really think this plan of Marcus's will work? Honestly? No. I think we're going to die screaming. But at least we will die doing something, instead of hiding in a hole waiting for the end. You have such a way with words. It is a gift. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Maria spoke again, quieter this time. I have been thinking about what happens if we actually survive this. Do not jinx it. Seriously, Jake, if we pull this off, if we take down one of their ships, what then? There are hundreds more, maybe thousands. We cannot fight them all. Jake lowered the binoculars. We do not have to fight them all. We just have to prove they can be fought. Humans are stubborn, remember? You show us something that can bleed, we will keep stabbing it until it stops moving. Word spreads. Other survivors see what we did. They try it themselves. One ship becomes 10. 10 becomes 100. Suddenly, the aliens have a real problem. A war of attrition. Exactly. They have better technology. We have 7 billion angry primates who just watch their planet get invaded. My money is on the primates. Marcus emerged from the factory, carrying a duffel bag that clinked ominously. Breakfast of champions, he announced, unzipping the bag to reveal homemade pipe bombs, Molotov cocktails, and what looked like repurposed fireworks strapped to propane tanks. Please tell me you know what you're doing with those, Maria said. Absolutely not. But ignorance has never stopped me before. Marcus grinned. I scrounged materials from 3 hardware stores and a construction site. Mix some fertilizer with diesel fuel for the big ones. The little ones are just glass bottles, gasoline, and righteous fury. This is the worst plan ever, Maria muttered. Got a better one? Marcus challenged. She did not. By noon, they had assembled a team. Jake, Maria, Marcus, plus 4 others willing to risk their lives on a suicide mission. A truck driver named Tommy, who had lost his entire family in the first attack. A college student called Nina, who had been studying engineering before the world ended. An ex-cop named Ray, whose hand shook but whose aim was steady. And a construction worker named Carlos, who knew explosives better than anyone had a right to. 7 people, against an alien warship. The odds were laughable. Jake loved it. They spent the afternoon running through the plan. Simple was best. The alien scout ship would pass over the steel mill at approximately 8 p.m. It flew low during its sweeps, probably 50 meters off the ground. They would position themselves on the mill's upper catwalks with their improvised weapons, wait for the ship to pass overhead, and when its shields dropped to fire its scanning beam, they would hit it with everything they had. What if the shields did not drop? Nina asked. Then we die, Marcus said cheerfully, but at least we will look cool doing it. That is not reassuring. It was not meant to be. As sunset approached, Jake checked on Lily and the other survivors they had sheltered in the bomb shelter. The little girl sat drawing pictures on a scrap of paper, crude sketches of people fighting monsters. She looked up when Jake entered. Are you to fight the bad guys? She asked. That is the plan. Will you win? Jake knelt beside her. I do not know, kiddo, but I promise you this. We're going to try. And sometimes trying is enough. Lily handed him her drawing. For good luck. Jake looked at the picture. Stick figures with weapons are facing a giant black shape with glowing eyes. The humans were tiny compared to the alien ship, but they were still fighting, still standing. Thanks, Jake said, folding the paper carefully and putting it in his pocket. I will bring it back. You better. The walk to the steel mill took 40 minutes. They moved through abandoned streets, past burned-out cars, and buildings reduced to skeletal frames. The city was a graveyard. But graveyards, Jake thought, were where ghosts came back to haunt the living. And humanity was about to become the universe's angriest ghost. The steel mill loomed against the darkening sky, all rusted girders and crumbling concrete. They climbed to the upper levels, positioning themselves along the catwalks that overlooked the main foundry floor. Marcus distributed the weapons. Jake got 3 pipe bombs and a rifle that he had scavenged. Not much, but enough. Radio check. Marcus whispered into a walkie-talkie. Tommy here. In position. Nina. Ready. Ray. Set. Carlos. Good to go. Maria. This is still a terrible idea. Jake. Let us hurt something. Marcus chuckled. That is the spirit. Now we wait. Waiting was the worst part. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. His palms were slick with sweat. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to run. But he stayed. They all stayed. At 7:58, the temperature dropped. Jake felt it before he heard it. A pressure in the air, like the world was holding its breath. Then the ship appeared. It came in low and fast, just like Marcus had predicted. Black hull gleaming in the fading light. symbols glowing along its surface. The sound it made was wrong, not mechanical, almost organic, a deep thrumming that Jake felt in his bones. Steady, Marcus whispered over the radio. Wait for it. The ship slowed as it reached the mill, hovering, scanning. A beam of blue light shot down from the underside, sweeping across the foundry floor. And there, just like Marcus had said, the shimmer around the ship's hull faded. The shields are dropping. Now! Marcus roared. Jake lit the fuse on his first pipe bomb and hurled it. The others did the same. 7 homemade explosives arced through the air. Most missed, but Carlos's bomb hit the ship dead center. The explosion was beautiful, a flower of fire blooming against alien metal. The ship lurched. It worked! Nina screamed. Holy hell, it actually worked. Keep firing, Marcus yelled. Jake threw a second bomb. This one hit the ship's side. More explosions followed. Molotov cocktails shattered against the hull, spreading liquid fire. The aliens had not expected resistance. They had certainly not expected it from below. The ship's weapon systems activated. Turrets emerged from recessed ports. But the ship was listing now. Damaged. Struggling. Jake grabbed his rifle and started shooting. He aimed for the turrets, for the glowing symbols, for anything that looked important. The others joined in. A ragged volley of gunfire and explosions and human rage given physical form. The ship tried to rise. Its engines whined, but something was wrong. Smoke poured from a gash in its hull. It tilted further, and then impossibly it started to fall. Move! Jake shouted. Get clear. They ran, scrambling down the catwalks as the ship crashed into the foundry below. The impact shook the entire building. Metal shrieked. Concrete crumbled. Jake threw himself through a doorway just as the wall behind him exploded outward. Dust and debris filled the air. Jake coughed, tried to see, tried to hear. His ears were ringing. His head spun. Maria, he called. Marcus. Anyone. Here. Maria's voice. Thank God. Still alive. Marcus. Barely. One by one, they checked in. Tommy. Nina. Ray. Carlos. All accounted for. All alive. Somehow. They staggered back to the foundry floor. The alien ship lay broken in the center of the space. Fires burned across its hull. Fluids leaked from ruptured systems. And standing around it, 7 humans armed with garbage and attitude. We did it, Nina whispered. We actually did it. We brought down a freaking alien warship with pipe bombs and Molotov cocktails, Tommy said, laughing. Who is going to believe that? I barely believe it, and I was here, Ray said. Marcus walked up to the ship and kicked it. Hard. That is for Detroit. That is for Earth. And that is for every human you bastards killed. Jake felt something warm in his chest. Pride. Hope. The realization that humanity was not done yet. Not by a long shot. We need to document this, Maria said. Film it. Broadcast it. Show people what we did. On it. Nina pulled out a phone. The internet was dead, but the camera still worked. She started filming. The downed ship. The damage. The 7 ordinary people who had accomplished something extraordinary. But their celebration was short-lived. The sky lit up, bright and angry. Jake looked up and saw 3 more ships approaching. Bigger ones. The reinforcements. Time to go, Marcus said. Now. They ran. Again. Because that was what humans did. Fight. Run. Live to fight another day. They made it back to the factory just as the steel mill exploded behind them. The aliens are obliterating the evidence. Or trying to. But they were too late. Nina had the footage. And within hours, using a jury-rigged satellite uplink Carlos had put together, they broadcast it to the world. The video spread like wildfire. Survivors in bunkers. Resistance cells in the ruins of cities. Military units are scattered across the globe. Everyone saw it. 7 people. Improvised weapons. 1 downed alien ship. The message was clear. They could be hurt. They could be killed. And if 7 untrained civilians could do it, Imagine what millions of humans could accomplish. Within days, reports started coming in. A ship shot down over Tokyo using modified anti-aircraft guns. Another crashed in the Amazon after guerrilla fighters rigged explosive drones. A third fell to the sea off the coast of Australia, brought down by a coordinated naval assault. Humanity was learning, adapting, fighting back. Jake stood on the factory roof one week after their attack, watching the alien ships. There were fewer now, and they flew higher, more cautious. The hunters had become the hunted. Maria joined him, as she often did. You know they're calling you the Detroit Seven now. You are heroes. Heroes are people who save the world. We just pissed off some aliens. Sometimes that is the same thing. Maria smiled. What are you going to do now? Keep fighting. Keep surviving. Keep being a pain in their collective asses until either they leave or we are all dead. Sound like a plan. Jake pulled out Lily's drawing. He had kept it with him. A reminder. The stick figures face the impossible. Still fighting. Still standing. You think we can actually win this? Maria asked. Jake thought about humanity's history. Every war, every struggle, every time, they have been the underdogs and somehow, impossibly, clawed their way to victory through sheer stubborn refusal to die quietly. Yeah, he said, I think we can. We are humans. Getting our asses kicked and coming back for more is kind of our thing. The aliens picked a fight with the wrong species. Good. Maria took his hand. Because I am not done living yet. And I am definitely not done being angry at those things for trying to take our planet. Somewhere in the distance, another explosion lit up the night sky. Another ship is falling. Another human victory. The invasion was far from over. The war had just begun. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, humanity had something it had not had before. Hope. And in the hands of 7 billion angry, clever, stubborn humans, hope was the most dangerous weapon in the universe. Jake grinned. Let them come. We will be waiting. And we will show them what happens when you underestimate the human race. We are not the strongest. We are not the smartest. But we are survivors. We are fighters. And we do not give up. Ever. Maria squeezed his hand. Against all odds. Against all odds, Jake agreed. And somewhere in the ruins of Earth, humanity prepared for round 2. The end. Subscribe and like to my channel for more sci-fi stories.